All right, let's just jump right into this because we're looking at a pretty radical blueprint for what a post-dollar economy could even look like. It's a system built around one massive question. What if our money wasn't based on debt, but on actual physical reality? What if we could literally create money from the earth itself?
To really get this, we have to start with something super basic. Look at an apple. It has real biological value. You can eat it to stay alive. Now, look at a dollar bill. It's paper. It only has value because we've all agreed it does. It's a social contract, a shared story. If you're stuck on a deserted island, the apple is reality. The dollar bill is just a piece of paper you can't eat.
So let's talk about that shared story, that agreement. The source material for this explainer calls it the money illusion. And this is the first big problem we need to wrap our heads around, because here's the thing. Almost every single dollar we agree has value only exists in the first place because someone, somewhere, went into debt.
And that leads to what's called the debt trap. Think about that for a second. Nearly every dollar in your pocket or your bank account started as a loan from a financial institution, and that loan has interest. So the whole system demands endless growth just to pay off that ever-compounding interest. And you can probably guess where all that interest eventually ends up. Yeah, concentrating wealth right at the top.
Okay, so if our current system is basically a debt trap, is there a way out? Well, this brings us to the core of the proposal, this idea of creating money from the earth. The second value protocol is basically an escape hatch. It completely flips the script on where money comes from. Instead of debt, it says we should create money directly from real, physical production.
Now, you got to hang on for this part, because it's a crucial point. The protocol argues that all real new value comes from one place and one place only, the primary sector. We're talking agriculture, mining, forestry, that kind of stuff. Everything is just rearranging those basic materials. That fancy smartphone in your pocket, it's just cleverly organized minerals. That amazing 5-star meal, just expertly rearranged farm products. The value wasn't created in the factory or the kitchen. It was created the moment the raw materials were pulled from the earth.
But that raises a pretty big question, right? How in the world do you turn a physical thing like a potato or a log into money without a bank? Well, the protocol's secret sauce is this really clever mechanism called the dual nature of value. It works by splitting every single one of those primary transactions into two separate parts.
So let's make this real with the cow example from the source. A farmer sells a cow for, let's say, 0.05 Bitcoin. That's the first value. It's just a normal market exchange, nothing weird about it. But then here's the magic trick. The network verifies that a real physical cow actually changed hands, and when it does, poof, the protocol mints an equal amount, 0.05 BTC worth, of new, local, and completely debt-free currency. That is the second value. It's new money, born from a real-world product, not a bank loan.
So wait a minute. A cow gets sold, and brand new money is born. This, of course, raises the most important question of all. Who gets that new money? The farmer? The buyer? This is where the model gets truly wild.
Check this out. Tiny little slices go to the producer, the farmer, as a bonus, and to the network operators to keep the lights on. A decent chunk, 14%, goes into a community fund for public goods like parks or roads. But the lion's share, a staggering 80%, goes directly to everyone in the community.
What you're looking at here is a completely bottom-up economy. That 80% is distributed every single week to every single resident. It's a universal basic income. But get this, it's not funded by taxes. It's a dividend paid for by the community's own productivity. It puts money directly into the hands of consumers, which fuels local businesses, all without anyone needing to take on debt from a bank.
Okay, I can practically hear the alarm bells ringing from here. Wait, you're just printing money and giving it away? That sounds like a recipe for absolute disaster. And you know what? You are right to be skeptical. So let's get into it. Let's tackle the two biggest, most obvious problems head-on: inflation and fraud.
First up, the big one. If you're just printing money every time a product is created and then handing it out, aren't you just paving a road straight to hyperinflation, where a loaf of bread costs a wheelbarrow full of cash?
Well, the answer lies in this classic economic equation, MV equals PQ. Now, don't worry, there's not going to be a math quiz. All you need to know is this. If the money supply, the M, grows way faster than the quantity of real goods and services, the Q, you get inflation, prices go up. But in this protocol, that literally can't happen. New money is only created when new physical goods are produced. The money supply is mathematically changed to the growth of real resources. The two sides of the scale are always kept in balance.
And it goes even deeper than that. Unlike our debt system, which needs infinite J-curve growth to survive, this system is tethered to the Earth. It follows a biological growth pattern, an S-curve. So, as a community gets closer to the maximum sustainable output of its local ecosystem, production naturally slows down, and so does the creation of new money. It's a self-regulating system that's designed for stability, not for impossible, infinite expansion.
All right, on to the second major problem, fraud. If the network prints money when a real cow is sold, what stops me from sitting in my apartment and just inventing a ghost cow with my buddy to get free cash? How does a piece of software know that a physical thing actually exists in the real world?
The protocol's answer is what they call a four-layer immune system. First, producers have to be vetted and registered. You can't just be a random person. Second, you need physical proof, things like data from IoT sensors and certified scales. Third, the buyer has to cryptographically sign off, proving they actually received the goods. And finally, independent validators, auditors basically, have to review all that data before they approve the transaction.
But here's the crucial point. This is the real kicker. Those validators, the auditors, they have to put their money where their mouth is. They're forced to stake a massive amount of their own capital just to participate. And if they approve a fraudulent ghost cow, the protocol automatically confiscates their entire stake. That process is called slashing. The penalty for cheating is designed to be so catastrophically high that it's just never, ever worth the risk.
So look, this is obviously a really complex system. You can't just flip a switch and replace the global economy overnight. The architects of this idea know this, and their proposed path forward is actually incredibly careful and deliberate. So how would you actually build this? The strategy is a careful Petri dish approach. You don't try to change the world all at once. You'd start with small, self-contained pilot communities. Think of an agricultural town out on the prairies, or maybe an island economy. Places where you can test and prove the concept in a controlled environment, making sure it's stable before it even thinks about expanding. When you put all these pieces together, you get a system that behaves less like a machine and, well, more like a living thing. I think this quote from the source material just sums it up perfectly. The money is like a nutrient, flowing to where real work is being done, and it stops when that work stops. It's alive.
Which leaves us with a final and pretty fascinating thought. A system like this doesn't just incentivize protecting the environment, it makes it a non-negotiable economic necessity. If a community's entire money supply is mathematically tied to the health of its local ecosystem, then overfishing the lake or exhausting the soil isn't just a tragedy, it's a form of collective economic suicide. It forces you to ask what happens when destroying your environment literally bankrupts your entire monetary system. A powerful idea to think about.